one thing about people and stylists, well, not stylists, the clients, they don't really care what you look like after the hair is done.
My hair
right.
looks beautiful.
Right.
They care in the beginning.
We're best friends.
By the end, they're inviting me everywhere. You know, it's like, come over. We're going out to dinner. Let me buy you a drink.
Salon owners are some of the most amazing people on planet Earth. The only problem is sometimes their hearts are so big and they give so much of themselves to their staff and guests that it creates unintended consequences. Our goal is to change the industry by elevating the way the rest of the world sees salons, spas, and barbershops and give it the credibility that it truly deserves. This is the Salon Owner Evo Revo Show. Hey, what's up, guys? It is Jason hanging out here with Doug and Sean, and our guest today out of the ISSE is Keya. Keya, it's so good to have you on today. I'm excited to have you.
Well, thank you. It's such an honor to be here with you guys.
Yeah, and we were chatting earlier. We got introed through the group here, through PBA, about, you know, you are one of the rock stars I need to be connecting with. You're doing some classes out here, like you're involved in what's going on out here at ISSE, correct?
Absolutely. We had a class called Texture versus Race.
Love it.
We did a texture class there. We've done a couple of podcasts already and a couple of interviews.
Love
it. So it's been amazing, and it's just a true honor to be here with you, though.
So good to have you. And we're going to talk today about breaking down barriers, because this question is really, it's a serious question, and I think a lot of people sometimes ignore it, and we're going to take on this hot question because, you know, as part of the High Performance Salon Academy, we have people call us up, and I talked to you about this, right? They ask questions like, well, but do you work with any ethnic colored, salons? Right. Do you work, do you work in this category? And I'm like, look, business is business. Like, learning business is still learning business when we're talking about teaching business. But you
principles.
teach this.
Principles.
Yeah, it's principles, right? It's like the principles of doing it, but there is this stigma, or there are these cultural differences, and those should be celebrated more than taken as, a problem. And I love that you teach texture this way, you teach color this way, you do some incredible things, and so we're excited to have you on the show and be chatting about this today. So thank you for being here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
One of the first things you said when I met you was that someone called you, and he was like, wow, well, why didn't they just know? But I think that's the whole thing. There's this huge divide in the industry itself. So that goes with every single sector. So we don't believe, or we bought in almost innately, that there should be a division.
Yeah, that somehow there's a different,
we just think that way. That's just the way we all think. We do. We carry that underlying...
kind of subconsciously put yourself into a box.
Exactly.
Right.
And even just knowing that is that separation. So when we look for a cultural assimilation, we're thinking that your business module will be greatly different from ours. So that's the question, until we get to a point where we're all requiring the same thing and the same standards in the salon, like you said, elevating the community and the salon business as a whole.
Right. Now, how has this come up for you? Because you've talked about texture, right? You've talked about doing texture and doing color, and you were telling me that people ask you these questions about, like, hey, can you come teach this here versus teach it here? Tell me about that for a second.
So interesting. So I teach color, and I teach a very brand neutral color curriculum called the Color Culture, and it's color interpretation.
By the way, just so we get it out of the way early, I want to make sure it's in there. How do people go find you on Instagram and to catch your color classes? Just let's plug that real quick.
Absolutely. So you can always go online at colorculture.com. That's KOLOUR, KULTURE, or you can find me at Keya_artistically. That's KEYA_artistically. Instagram, everything's pretty the same.
Love it.
You can
we'll
find
remind you guys later too, but just for now, I just want to make sure we got that in.
Thank you for that.
So I didn't mean to take us off our flow there, but tell me about how people come to you for these classes.
So the thing is that when I teach this curriculum, I teach a very multicultural, multifaceted group of people, and it's never about the race of the people. Now, mind you, a lot of African American people find me very valuable because there's not a lot of education that's inclusive of the textures that they actually are familiar with. Okay, but somehow I found my way into the American Board of Certified Hair Colorists, and I was told, thank you, and I was told, they said, well, we want you to teach a class, but we want you to teach it on texture. And I was a little taken aback because I was like, well, I want to teach color. I don't know if I want to teach black hair. I didn't want to be pigeonholed as the girl that did black hair.
Right.
And she said, well, we want to know because we're very white, which we had that conversation. I was like, this is a very white organization. Like, you all have not enough color here, and it's not very inviting, it's not very inclusive, so what are we going to do? And she says, well, teach us how to do textured hair. And so the thought came, well, do I teach you how to do hair, or do I teach you how to do people?
Right.
And that was one of the biggest things. Like, how do we merge the cultures. It's not about the hair. I can teach you to do anything,
right.
and you're probably already doing it. You're just not doing it on the package that is showing up.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah.
So let's get some framework on that. And again, in talking about how that works, because again, as you look around the country and you work with different salons, there are tons of different pieces that people divide themselves through. We were talking about that, so right? Is that people tend to divide. So why do you think it is that people tend to divide in the salon environment like that?
I think it's been perpetuated from the beginning. No, I think it was perpetuated from the beginning. I think it was set that way from schooling. I think because there's not a lot of texture education, we've sent the message that straight hair, wavy hair, smooth texture hair is the default and everything else is the exception.
Interesting.
And I think that that's what has fueled and seeded that particular propaganda all this time, even if it's subconsciously to an extent. There was no specifications or no intention on adding a texture curriculum other than the one or two blurps in every curriculum. And unless you went to a private school that specialized and knew that you needed that texture curriculum, that piece, in a regular state-funded school, you did not get texture education.
Right.
So therefore, you came out with either a fear or the lack of exposure to, and it also fueled the fact that you thought it was an option, much like lashes and extensions.
Right.
And
I think there is a lot of artificial fear. And so,
it is.
It's like my wife does very good with texture hair, always has. But when we bring people into the salon, someone's like, well, I don't have any idea. Because, to your point, the school didn't really address it. It was kind of that's something different.
Right. It was the exception.
Right.
Yeah.
Instead of just saying this is just part of it, to your point.
Yeah.
Here's color theory is color theory.
Totally.
Exactly.
Right.
So
Yeah.
until we get to a point where our theory starts from the beginning, where we insert texture from the very beginning and make all of the aspects true for everyone. So
Right.
if I'm talking about bleach, then I have to target bleach for this texture, for that texture, for straight texture, for curly, for sensitized, for porosity, for all of these things I have to take into account. Right. It all has to be there, and then we take race off the table. So the point to see an African American woman shouldn't be on chapter 10 for 3 pages and then that's it. And your average client cannot be the average Caucasian woman with straight hair, level 5 to 7 hair, because what I do on her is totally not going to be the same as who I do on African American woman sitting, quotes, with textured hair, natural level 2, resistant or not.
Right.
And
it won't be the same.
That's funny because it just makes me think of that. That leads to the fear, like, well, there's some African American women that will call and ask if we have an African American person that can do their hair, because they think that's the only, because to your point, people haven't been taught that in school. It's like, well, at our salon right now, we don't, but we have plenty of people that can work on your hair and do a fantastic job.
Are those people African American, or are there people that can work on all textures of hair?
There are people that work on all types of hair.
Right.
So it's like, it's just, some of them learned it naturally because of their own experience. Some of them, I'm not sure how Alice actually, because she's been able to do it most of her career. But to your point, it's brought a fear for African American women to go in. It's like, because you've never been, this wasn't part of your curriculum, so now it is, so they may have had a bad experience.
They're absolutely going to have a bad experience, and that works on both sides. Now, let's take it from the opposite direction. There's going to be a white woman that sits in my chair that's going to question whether or not I have experience in her hair. And I've lived that. But I lived that because I was dropped off. I always tell the story. My husband dropped me off at an all-white salon to get a job post-baby. And he was like, oh, you're getting a job. And I'm like, today? Yes.
So, and this is interesting because you talked about this. Like, and again, I assume like your husband dropped you off at that salon. Let's do it because there's some different stigmas between, African-American salons and
we wanted me to
salons.
be more diverse. I had already owned the salon for 10 years. I'd been in for 15 years in a predominantly African-American salon. But the stigma that I face as an African-American stylist, even in a white salon, still stands to say, well, do you know how to do my hair? And until I prove myself, then I had to prove myself. But here's the thing. Could a white woman go into a black salon without knowing that she was absolutely already qualified to do her hair? No. Most of them open the door and see a whole bunch of black people and shut the door and go, oh, I got the wrong door. I'm in the wrong space.
Yeah, there's
and
clearly
they turn
nobody
around.
who can help me.
Or they'll say, do you have someone that can do my hair? Do you all do my type of hair? So it's the same no matter what door is swinging.
Created that separation.
We created the separate, just like the church. The church and the salon are the only two institutions left that are as segregated as they are, uncontested.
Right.
Period.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you say, like, for salons? What is the biggest stigma, like, for a salon owner? Because we work with a lot of salon owners, right? And understanding, like, that framework of, like, growing the business from that standpoint of having that line, having that diversity in there. What are some things that you see as other stigmas that are in place that you'd like to see lifted, if that makes sense?
I think thinking that you have to build a culture around everyone that looks just like you.
Right.
Or having diversity, but they still have to conform to the culture that you built around your preferences.
Right.
I think when you build a culture and you want to be diverse and inclusive, you need to bring people in, and you actually need to allow them to operate in their culture and create a new culture that's for everybody to operate. It's like inviting someone to dinner, but you have no idea what their dietary preferences are.
Right, totally.
Right.
So
You have
if
a
I come to you
vegetarian
and I'm a
over and
vegetarian and you have a steak fest,
It
well,
ain't gonna work.
you and then you tell me I can sit at the table, but I don't necessarily
I don't
enjoy what I'm eating.
Got some mashed potatoes for you.
Exactly.
Yeah, totally.
So that's a huge anomaly. So I think people, when they own a salon, I think understanding that when you include someone, having diversity is, I picked a black girl, a Spanish girl, a Dominican girl, an Asian person, a white person, and we all work together, but we still all operate in a
Separately,
Caucasian culture.
Right.
So,
Right.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I think what I'm hearing, and I think is really good, is that we should create a complete hairstylist,
Totally.
someone that isn't
Yeah, this heaven forbid is actually qualified to do everything.
that could work in all those different. Because actually,
Correct.
the ones in our salon that can make more money than the ones and move up because their audience is bigger.
Right.
The
You're
audience
not,
is
you're
bigger,
not pigeonholed into
but that
one
starts with
thing.
ownership.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you decide that everyone needs to go through this training, and
Right.
you bring that training there. You bring people
Right.
that are qualified to do all different textures
Right.
and types of hair,
Well-
and then they teach each other.
Yeah.
And I think that, as with anything, I think the more aspects that you understand of something, the better you are at all of it.
Sure.
Totally.
If you get
Yes.
stuck in, I'm sure you've experienced people that learn a couple colors and that's their safe zone. They
That's
don't
it.
want to get out of that box. And so
Everything
they,
is 7 in.
They try to force force everybody into that. Oh no, this is the thing. Yeah.
This is it.
But yeah, teach them, I think, to understanding how it's hair, how the hair is reacting in different types and environments is going to make you better all the way around.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, I mean, I think it's that thing where, just from a stylist perspective is, like you said, you go through school, and I think it's like anything else in life. Like, people like to stay inside that comfort zone where they feel safe and comfortable. And, anytime we have a lack of knowledge of something, there's going to be a low confidence about it. So, and yeah, I mean, I think from a salon owner, as if you had an owner that brought more of that education in, gave you more information, more education, the stylist confidence would build. And I think ultimately, like, from a stylish perspective, is as stylish we should strive to understand hair, not people, right? And hair, all different types of hair. Like, do you know how to work on all types of hair, no matter the hair? So like the focus again is a hair stylist. We're not people stylists, we're hair stylists. We should know all hair.
And another thing, to your point, when you're looking for education, you should look beyond who looks like you for that said education.
Right.
Yep.
Totally.
Okay, so
Totally.
here's
the more
another
diverse your
problem.
education is, the
Okay.
better it's going to be.
But when are you, and here's where texture versus race comes in at.
Yeah.
I provide a safe environment for someone who does not have that knowledge, who may be even a little subconscious, not subconscious, they might be a little afraid.
Right.
They may have, like you said, a subconscious fear of going into the unknown. They don't want to say the wrong thing. They think that it becomes about race.
Right.
Yeah.
They've
Right.
told themselves
hard,
stories.
man.
They've
It's a
told
hard thing.
themselves stories that this is going to be about race, and somehow
Right.
they're going to make me racist in the whole thing.
It's
and
hard.
then you go, well, you know what? I'm just not going to do it. Well, texture versus race creates a space where everyone is able to grow
Love it.
and learn in the safe environment, so that we can ask the questions, have the
Yeah.
uncomfortable conversations, and you don't get judged for not knowing.
Totally.
Right.
And me too.
Right. It's like there's a boundary of like, I hope I don't say something
Well, that's
wrong.
why
or
you
what's
don't go
going
to
on.
black classes. There are a
Yeah.
lot
Right.
of black education out here, and a lot. To your point, there's a lot of hair shows where you won't find that many texture classes. You won't find very many black educators, and if you do, their classes are not filled. They're not filled to the rim. They should be,
Right,
but
'cause
they're
there's a
not,
fear in
because
that.
you still will take a texture class from a bald white guy who has no hair, and I'm dead serious.
Yeah,
and
right,
you will
yep,
take
totally.
you will take texture education from a bald white guy that will tell you how to do us. So that's
Yeah,
where
that's
that
crazy.
divide is even further in the educational
Right.
system. So when ISSE says, "Oh, we love what you're doing. Come, let us do it,"
Yeah.
I have to take
Good.
every opportunity to be in a position, even if I know I'm outnumbered, and speak the right message
Totally.
and say, "Hey, come work with me,
Totally.
Right.
because I'm gonna help you, absolve yourself of the fear that you have of your unknown,
Right.
and we're gonna grow in this thing together."
Totally.
So tell me about what's a way that a salon owner, and you kind of said this, but I just want to kind of hear your thought on this question directly. You kind of inadvertently answered it. But like for a salon owner on any side or in any piece of diversity inside their salon, how do they go about starting to educate? What would be the easiest way for them to say, okay, this is the type of hair we cut, but we want to start branching out? What would be some advice to start bringing in some outside education so they can get more diversified hair education in their salon?
So I think one of the first things they need to do is, one, let's start by employing and understand what it means to host and have diversity in your salon.
Yeah.
Not just picking
start with
people.
that.
Let's start with
Right.
that. Okay, so you've got everybody at the table, but how do you make sure that everybody is equally served as a team and as a culture? Let's start by developing a salon culture that encompasses every single person, so no one has to lose their self working with you.
Totally.
Let's just start there. And then let's start by allowing yourself to look beyond what you know for education. There's too many opportunities. If I wanted to know how to do balayage, I would just simply look up the hashtag balayage, and I would follow a
learn it
trail.
and figure it out.
The same
It's a
thing
skill.
for texture education.
Yeah.
You would hashtag it, and you would keep going down the rabbit hole until you found someone, and you would ask the right questions. Or you would just simply ask me, "Hey, Keya, do you have a curriculum for the salons
Totally.
for texture education?"
Yeah.
Yes,
'Cause
and
you
I'm
might,
going to help
yeah.
you develop a
Right.
culture for your salon, whatever that is, because no one salon is going to be the same.
Right.
Yeah, totally.
Right.
So once we get past that, then we educate you on how to develop a culture from the front desk to the support staff, because that's important for
Yeah,
all
'cause
of them
even
to
from the
be
top
involved.
down, yeah.
From the top
Right.
down, from the time you
Totally.
answer the phone, the verbiage has to be there, the language, the understanding, the openness. It's like everything else that we're trying to be so inclusive about. All of that is relevant. So I do classes with the entire salon as a body.
Right.
And then we start doing texture education, and we start doing different textures of hair and showing you how you know what you already know. We're just putting it on a different body.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
and just understand.
I mean,
the
from a
difference.
salon owner's point of view too, man, I would want everybody to be able to do anybody's hair that walks through the door.
yeah,
Right.
as it
Absolutely.
should.
And I
That's a
definitely
real
would
salon.
want, if I had, different races in my salon, I would not want that to be, oh, well, there's the
black girl.
section, there's
Yeah,
the,
or the here's your
Right.
So
Italian.
every time
What I
someone
would-
black
your
shows
Greek
up, you go,
hair,
"Keya,
or-
Keya,
Right.
you got
Now,
it."
what I would love to do
Yeah,
is for if a black woman walked in and she assumed that she was going to go to the black stylist, I'd say, actually,
No, you want to talk to
the
Sarah.
one
Oh, that's
over
awesome.
the red,
Totally.
the really light skinned redheaded girl is
Yeah.
the best at
I
what
love
you're
it.
asking
Yeah,
for
yeah.
the body.
And that's what happens at my salon.
That's
Right.
awesome.
When the white woman comes in
'Cause that
for the
starts to break it all
balayage
up,
and
right.
the
You're like,
the
I know who's
waterfall
got that.
hair, she's like, "I'm thinking Becky over here with the blonde hair is going to do it," and it's like Keisha over there in the
Right.
corner
Yeah.
showing up like, "Hi, I'm Keya," and they're like, "Oh,
Yeah.
you're doing my hair today.
No,
I'm
okay.
doing your hair today," and
Yeah,
then
but
we're
that's
best
awesome.
friends after that.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
totally.
Because one thing about people and stylists, well, not stylists, the clients, they don't really care what you look like
Nuh-uh.
after the hair is
My
done
hair
right.
looks
Right,
beautiful.
right.
Right.
They care in the beginning.
We're best
but
friends.
By the
Yep.
end, they're inviting me everywhere.
Right,
You know,
right.
it's like, "Come over. We're
Right.
going out to dinner. Let me
So-
buy you a drink."
So talking about this, because I was mentioning this earlier, and I think this is kind of a good piece to get as a full thought here. Is that we talk about people there? We have salons that they charge $25 for a haircut. And we have salons that charge $225
Right.
for a haircut. And I think a lot of times there is some, the reason why people would or wouldn't talk about for us for business education is they think that educating in a black or African American salon is completely different than in a white salon. All these things from a business perspective. What are some of the stigmas that you'd like to see broken down between all these different races and all these different places of just what the business side needs to look like?
Well, let me go ahead and address this right here. That is
Yeah.
a great question, and I want to address it firstly by saying that we have to understand the culture of the African American community was different from the beginning.
Totally.
Okay,
Yep.
so the styles, the services that we render are different. The timing that we have is different. The way that we set our business modules have always been different.
Right. Have been different.
They have been different, and they sometimes still operate different. It's just that we're all doing it now. Like booth rental was very heavy in the African American community. We never did really buy into a lot of team-based salons, so we didn't have the luxury of the sports clips or the bubbles, or we didn't have franchises and things that had all of those systems and educational formats in place. We were all very individualistic. It was very culturalistic and sort of just a classic in the traditional salon in a sense. So we operated a little bit different. And I was telling somebody the other day that Blackish did a show. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Blackish.
Yeah.
So Blackish did a show about the salon, and I was pretty taken aback by that because I think that they regenerated and re-triggered a stigma about the black salon experience that I don't identify with.
Interesting.
Right.
Never did.
Yeah.
So I was kind of thrown, like, I felt like it was a huge slap in the face to not acknowledge the advancements that we've made in the African American community. Because yes, there will be people that have bad salon experiences. There are people that still don't have good time management or business modules. But I think we find that all the way across the board now. And it's not just, we don't have a monopoly on bad salon businesses.
No, trust me, you do
So,
not.
but
That
I
is
had
not
to
the
learn
deal.
that once I got into that salon space. Because now I know white isn't right. And I'm telling you, that's the thing. Now we know white isn't right and black isn't whack. But the services were different. You inevitably, any stylist, probably maybe 5 or 10 years ago, even in my salon, as professional as I was probably the only black salon that had salon software back in 2000. That's a long time ago when salon software really started being accessible to smaller salons.
Yeah.
And you still could be in a salon 2 and 3 hours depending on what you were getting. And it didn't matter if I had one person or 4 or 5. The only thing that was going to be different is whether I was just standing there looking at you for 2 hours while you were under the dryer. What has changed in the African American community is how we do things, how we service, and the timing and perfecting that.
Yeah, love it.
So as that transitions and changes, so does how we operate, and our business modules start to look closer to the medium of where everybody lives as an elevated salon.
That's it. And I really appreciate you having on, because I think this discussion is good. I mean, it's one of those things, like I live in Sacramento, which is Time Magazine did an article on, it's one of the most culturally diverse melting pots in the entire country. Time Magazine did this whole thing. And it's one of those things that I think there are so many divisional things that operate in our day-to-day that if they're not talked about, people can't have an understanding. And again, it's like, it's very easy to stay inside your comfort zone. So I really just want to say thank you for being on the show today and for talking about what you did, because there's so many salons that I think need to hear that message that, like to Sean's point about treating the hair, your point is it's just a person, it's just a different type of hair. Like I think all of those things can be really beautiful when they come together, and it stops being these divisional places that we've created this cultural difference. Even though there are things that are different, it doesn't need to stay that way forever or mean that one is better or worse or anything in between. So I'm just super grateful to have you on.
I'm so honored to be here. It's been wonderful talking to you guys. I feel like we've been
fun.
chatting it up. We could do this like once a week. I
can
can actually see us doing that, like take a subject and
just
like really dive into it and have everybody's perspective, especially the black girl, the white guy,
There you go. Yeah, she was like, and some white guys. Well, look, I'll be the pasty representative, pasty guy on the whole thing. We'll make it happen. I just want to say, and that's a good plug for subscribe to our show, check out our podcast, and by the way, if you want to check out more information on Keya, where can they go? Let's plug it one more time.
That's right. You're going to find me at colorculture.com or textureversusrace.com, and I'm
with
also
2 Ks, color.
2 Ks, KOLOURKULTURE. But I'm on Instagram with Keya_artistically, KEYA, and Texture Versus Race. Make sure you connect. Facebook, we have a group. If you really want to dive into hard conversations, Texture Versus Race, the group.
Love it. Okay,
it is amazing.
Awesome.
Get on that group and just go back and look at the conversations, and you can see how far we go to actually diversify and to really start to debunk the myths.
There you go.
And blur the lines that divide us.
Yeah. Awesome.
Love
Well, thank
it.
you so much for being on. And again, do me a favor, subscribe to our podcast, leave us a rating, let us know if you like this show, and check out for other great conversation with more incredible people. Nobody's like you. But there's other people
like
that
One
are,
of a kind.
okay also.
They
That's
are
all I'm
right,
saying.
but really listen to this podcast. What number is this one going to be?
Yeah, we'll let you know. We'll
Let
we'll
me
put it
know
in
so
there.
I can run it because I want every black person to hear it.
I like
There
it.
you go. There you
Thank
go.
you so much. All right, well, thanks for being on the show. Have a great week, guys. We'll see you on our next show.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to the Evo Revo podcast. If you liked today's episode, please subscribe, leave us a review, and you can always get more information, including show notes and the video episodes at evorevopodcast.com.